Thank you, Sigurður Ingi. And as you see, we're starting today with the session on the labor market, entering the Nordic labor market. The first speaker is our keynote speaker, the sociologist Eva Mersk, who has specialized in why people want to keep living where they live. This is a difficult question. It's, of course, a labor market question. You have a village, people are maybe moving away, but you still want to have top jobs with top education in the village, so you have to send people somewhere to study, but what if they don't come back? These are difficult questions. Eva Mersk maybe has the answer to it, so we're going to go ahead and get her keynote talk. Should I stay or should I go? Young adults' choices for obtaining higher education. Welcome, Eva.
Yes. Hi. Cool. Yeah, I changed my title from should I stay or should I go to there and back again, because it emphasizes the dynamics and the mobility issues that we are also talking about at this conference. Can anyone see where this is from, this image? The Shire, yeah. And I chose this because how many of you are under 30? Over here, yeah, a little bit, good. How many of you have seen, read, watched The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings? Good, then we have a common reference frame, because usually when I come out and tell about my research, I talk about young people in rooms like this where we want to understand young people, but where the young people are not very well represented. This is one of the points, but also because I want to emphasize the importance of stories, the importance of the stories we tell about places, and the stories we tell about ourselves and young people who move or who do not. And I began my research in the Shire, in the west of Denmark, in a rural area, or in the northern part of the Netherlands. And I was challenged with the research question, how do we make young people stay and do their educations here in our local regions? How do we make them stay? Because we love our shires, we love our communities, we love our rural regions. Why do they move away? It's safe, it's nice, there are tons of job opportunities here. And now we are also making opportunities for taking educations via satellite universities or similar things. But they move anyway. We still have this in all over the Nordics. We have young people slowly or fast moving out of our rural regions into the cities, or at least into urban areas. And it's a problem. It's a difficulty, because it will rent these regions their future. We need young people there for various reasons. So I sat down with a lot of young people who decided to do their higher education in the region where they were born. So I sat down and asked them, why do you want to be a stayer? I want to understand the stayers. And they told me all their moving stories. They told me the stories about their journeys. They told me the stories about how they had moved a little bit, or if they had, I went from high school into my local university, but I traveled before. And I wanted to understand this. And first thing I noticed was everybody wants to be Frodo or Bilbo. Because if we know this from our popular culture, if Bilbo had said, I stay here in my hobbit hole, the history hadn't been really interesting. Everybody wants to be Frodo, everybody wants to be Bilbo, everybody wants to tell this story about my journey. But what interested me was Rosie. Do you remember Rosie from The Lord of the Rings? Nope, I didn't either. We are not telling her story. She stayed in the Shire, and she marries Sam, and also says a little bit about our look on women from the time we're talking was writing these. But the interesting part about Rosie was that she's actually building her community. She's insanely important for the Shire. And I wanted to look into her and see, aren't there any positive things about these stayers? Why are we not telling their stories? And I took a huge data set and then I compared movers and stayers. And I looked at location-specific insider advantages, which is a Swedish concept from some researchers who looked at why are adults not moving. And it's because adults are usually having a nice time where they are, because they have a lot of advantages. But it turns out young people have advantages as well in staying. It's a privilege to be able to stay if you have a possibility to have an education. You have a good professional network. You have a good opportunity for having an internship. You have a good knowledge about the local companies who have the good communities or the sustainable outlook on the future. They have a lower rent, and they have a good social network. So, in essence, on all these parameters, stayers it's a good idea to be a stayer, but they move anyway. No matter how many times we're told it's a good idea to be a stayer, they move anyway. And as adults and planners and educators, we are a little bit, but why? There are so many advantages here, and there are dragons out there, and it's a long way, and why and you can just have a job here in the Shire. So I looked into the literature and in the main discourses about movers and stayers. And the reason is, we can see that the movers, the Bilbos, they are the ones that we tell they have the higher education. They chose the right student life. They are successful. They do the cosmopolitan life. Stayers have low education. They are conservative or stagnated. They have always failed to leave. They are the residue when we look into the movers, and then they are also the stayers. They are a little bit boring, and we don't understand why we should look into them. Yeah, so this was the interesting part. We're never telling the story about having to choose actively to stay in a place. It's usually because we think that they have not been able to. So I understood my correspondent and the students that I interviewed much better after this, because they didn't want to be associated with the stagnated, boring life that we assume. And this is a concept that is called the mobility imperative. You are ought to move. They learn to leave. They learn to leave even if their education's nearby, and they learn to leave from us. We are the ones that are telling these stories about, if you want to be successful, you should move. These are the implicit stories that we tell. So I wanted to look a little bit further into this. So I looked into the regional stayer, the one that moves a little bit. And what was interesting about these people was that they had usually either moved from a smaller city to a bigger city to do their education, and sometimes they had moved back, or they had been commuting in. And the interesting part about these were, even though they had diverse journeys, some of them had been away from their home region for 8 years and returned. Some of them moved 10 kilometers from the nearby village into their local urban region. No matter what type of journey they had made, their stories, their narratives were identical. I have transformed. I have become successful. I am not a stayer. I'm not boring. I have made something of myself. It's so important to them to tell about this, I slayed the dragon. And it can be, I survived my higher education, or I have just been away for a little bit of time. I have separated from my parents, or similar. But what was also interesting about this small move and the narrative they connected to it was that they changed their perspective on their home region, on their rural region. Because when they looked back and when they had convinced me and themselves about, I'm not a stayer, I have been out, they also began to tell the stories. I see my home region in a new perspective. I know the values I have been brought up with. I know the importance of community. And now I'm ready to return. But only if they had fond memories about their childhood. If they had a story about there was a room for us. We had nice communities, there were stuff to do in our free time. If they had been bullied, or if they thought that the community was conservative, or if they had been told to fuck off because they were homosexuals, they would never return. It was the importance of the childhood memory that made the difference if they wanted to return. So these identity narratives about moving and the stories that we give young people, they may not be underestimated. The stayers are, we need to plan for the stayers, because if we want young people to be stayers, then we need to emphasize and prioritize them. And right now we're doing a lot of campaigns about making young people move to the rural areas, but we are never making campaigns for what do you do when you're here? And hi stayers, should we do something for you? It's the stayers that are building the communities, and we should prioritize them much more in our planning. Awesome. Some of them are Bilbos and Frodos. I guess most of you here are a Bilbo or a Frodo that have moved into a bigger city, at least for some time, and then moved out again, maybe. And they will move regardless, because they move for identity, they move for cultural events, they move for just experiencing something new and finding new inputs in life. But what we can do something about is the time where the young people are in our local communities. Because if we give them these stories, they are and stories that they want to give to their children, they just need to slay a dragon first, and then they will probably return. But we should prioritize the stayers, let the leavers go, and when they are with us, prioritize the young people. Thank you.